Here's the brutal truth nobody wants to admit. Sometimes the lesser recruit becomes the better player, and Tennessee football just proved it in spectacular fashion. While college football fans obsess over 5-star ratings and NIL mega deals, the Volunteers are quietly laughing all the way to a potential playoff berth with their consolation prize, quarterback. But here's where it gets controversial. Sources within the Tennessee program are absolutely keeping tabs on their former Golden Boys' downward spiral at UCLA, and they're not exactly heartbroken about what they're seeing. Some people definitely keep close watch, for sure, reveals an insider from the Tennessee program. Even those who claim they don't follow the drama can't escape it. As another program source puts it bluntly, you don't need to actively watch because Tennessee Twitter covers every single detail. Let's be honest, who among us hasn't checked up on an ex-relationship? Right now, Tennessee is absolutely flourishing with what you might call their revenge body. The 22nd ranked Volunteers sit pretty at 2-0, gearing up for a massive home clash against the 6th ranked Georgia Bulldogs. The most significant driving force behind this impressive start? The quarterback who emerged from Tennessee's bizarre spring trade with UCLA, a move that looked disastrous at the time, but now appears genius. Joey Aguilar, once a completely overlooked high school prospect with 0 stars to his name, has been absolutely lighting up scoreboards. Through 2 games, he's compiled 535 passing yards with 5 touchdown passes against 0 interceptions, completing an impressive 66.1% of his attempts. Just last week, he orchestrated Tennessee's record-breaking 72-point demolition of East Tennessee State, a performance that had Volunteer fans wondering why they ever worried in the first place. Meanwhile, the quarterback who essentially broke up with Tennessee is struggling mightily with his new team. UCLA sits at a disappointing 0-2 record following losses to Utah and UNLV. While Nico Iamaleava isn't solely responsible for the Bruins' problems, his statistics through 2 contests, 391 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, hardly reflect someone who arrived on campus as a 5-star recruit, surrounded by enormous expectations and hype. Tennessee appears to have completely bought into the Aguilar experience. Throughout Knoxville, Aguilar, a former junior college prospect who worked his way up through the ranks, has gained tremendous respect for his journey to college football's elite level. Program sources consistently describe Aguilar as an exceptional leader, highlighting his outspoken leadership style in stark contrast to Iamaleava's much more reserved personality. He carries himself like a mature adult. He behaves like a grown man. He's incredibly well composed, explains a third Volunteer source when discussing Aguilar. Even Aguilar's grandmother has become a viral sensation among Tennessee supporters after television cameras captured the 82-year-old crying tears of joy in the stands while watching her grandson perform. For Tennessee, everything has become part of a surprisingly wonderful quarterback exchange, even though the months leading up to it resembled an absolute nightmare. Looking back, we're in great shape, admits the initial Tennessee source. If someone asked, would you go through this entire situation again? I believe everyone would respond, we ended up with Joey? He's performing like this here? We're perfectly fine. The players might be hesitant to say it publicly because some maintain friendships with Nico. But Joey distributes the ball more effectively. He socializes with more teammates. He's more naturally charismatic. He doesn't isolate himself. And this is the part most people miss. The warning signs were there all along. Warning signals of a deteriorating relationship between Tennessee and Iamaleava surfaced during the winter months. Iamaleava's representation approached the Volunteers before the winter portal deadline, seeking a new financial arrangement, as quarterback salaries exploded across the country. Free agent quarterbacks like Carson Beck transferring to Miami and Darian Mensah moving to Duke had generated headlines with their new contracts, particularly Mensah's 2-year, $8 million agreement. Iamaleava, earning in the low $2 million range, had just guided his team to the college football playoff in 2024. His camp, paying special attention to Mensah's lucrative terms, wanted to explore potential adjustments. Those discussions led nowhere. However, problems continued surfacing periodically. Iamaleava even missed a spring team workout, raising eyebrows throughout Knoxville. You could feel the underlying tension, reveals the third volunteer source. I still couldn't believe he'd actually leave during the spring. Entering your junior season after playing well? I spoke with several NFL teams who might have selected him in the first round of 2025 if he'd been draft eligible, mainly because the quarterback class appeared weaker. He possesses tremendous physical talent. Matters remained unstable throughout April. Tennessee's leadership felt Iamaleava's camp's spring demands still revolved around financial compensation. Iamaleava's representation, according to sources, wanted increased investment from Tennessee in the team's offensive line and receiving corps. Even months later, the messages surrounding the tension's root cause remain contradictory. Many within Tennessee's program blame money and Iamaleava's aggressive representation. Others, both inside the program and close to Iamaleava, insist the demands focused much more heavily on resources and support. Both parties were still expected to remain together for 2025 until a report emerged publicly suggesting Iamaleava was considering exploring the transfer portal. Iamaleava's camp became furious, believing Tennessee leaked the story to manipulate public perception against a quarterback already earning substantial money. The Volunteers grew frustrated as the issue continued resurfacing. Despite Iamaleava attending a quarterback meeting at his offensive coordinator's residence less than 12 hours before the final separation, with those around him insisting he seemed content, Iamaleava skipped practice the following day, claiming he needed a mental health break. Regardless, this proved to be the final breaking point, and Iamaleava, a historic recruit who signed a high school NIL deal potentially worth up to $10 million, transferred from Tennessee after merely 2 seasons. It's genuinely disappointing because we accommodated virtually everything they requested, and we were incredibly accommodating, states the third Tennessee source. I still believe it was a worthwhile endeavor. Acquiring Nico transformed our program's perception during a period when it was recovering from Jeremy Pruitt. 5-star quarterbacks generate significant attention. We reached the playoff. I believed after the playoff game, we had probably extracted as much value from Nico as we realistically could. The public nature of the separation and its timing significantly limited Iamaleava's portal options. Most programs had settled their quarterback situations. Those that hadn't worried about how adding Iamaleava might disrupt their locker room dynamics? UCLA represented a natural destination for Iamaleava, considering he's a Los Angeles native. However, UCLA had already added Aguilar during the winter transfer window from Appalachian State, and he was projected and compensated to serve as the program's starter. Even after Iamaleava entered the portal, sources indicate some within UCLA's program initially assured Aguilar they didn't plan to pursue Iamaleava. During this period, Iamaleava's camp conducted due diligence on what life would be like with the Bruins. They had concerns about UCLA's offensive line and wide receiver depth after a camp member attended practice, mirroring their concerns about what they'd left behind in Knoxville. Despite numerous public and behind-the-scenes denials, Iamaleava announced his intention to transfer to UCLA after 8 days in the portal on April 20th. Aguilar reportedly discovered this news simultaneously with the rest of his teammates through social media. 1 day later, Aguilar entered the transfer portal for a second time in fewer than 6 months. The Volunteers reached out immediately. Tennessee had conducted background research on several other starting quarterbacks across the FBS, but Aguilar met their needs perfectly. He was an experienced starter. He was available, and he wouldn't financially burden a program already committing substantial quarterback resources to 2026's #1 overall recruit. Faison Brandon. Aguilar agreed to transfer to Tennessee within hours. In this unusual quarterback trade, Tennessee saved considerable resources compared to the more than $2 million they'd committed to spend on Iamaleava for the 2025 season. But here's where it gets controversial. Is Aguilar actually the better fit, or did Tennessee just get lucky? It's only 2 games, but you can already identify areas where Aguilar has elevated Tennessee's offensive performance. The most effective Josh Heupel offenses excel at running the ball in his veer and shoot system while stretching defenses vertically. Tennessee accomplished the first component last year at an elite level with Dylan Sampson. The second component proved more challenging. The Volunteers ranked just 96th nationally in passing plays of 20-plus yards. Iamaleava completed only 32% of his passes 20-plus yards downfield, and just 53.8% of those from 10 to 19 yards, according to Pro Football Focus. Tennessee currently ranks 32nd nationally in explosive passing plays during 2025. Despite ranking 125th nationally in drop percentage, and Aguilar is proving significantly more accurate in medium 71.3% and deep 57.1% field areas. Just extremely steady, and that reflects who he is as a person, Heupel commented about Aguilar following the Volunteers' Week 1 victory over Syracuse. That's his character. When you observe someone who's arrived and in 3.5 months managed to learn, understand, and perform the way he did today, it demonstrates his work ethic. Iamaleava isn't performing poorly for UCLA by any measure. His QBR ranking of 48th actually sits just behind Aguilar at 45th, and the Bruins situation surrounding him is problematic, with UCLA ranking last among Power 4 conferences in pressure rate allowed. 41.4%. Those around Knoxville have noticed UCLA's personnel struggles around Iamaleava, a point that isn't lost on them given how Iamaleava's camp criticized the team's roster while departing. Nobody wishes failure on anyone, explains the First Tennessee source. But claiming you left here because we weren't talented enough is ridiculous. We have superior offensive line play. Our running game is effective. We have quality receivers. Saying you're leaving because we're not a talented team and we didn't surround you with talent is absolutely ridiculous. Iamaleava possesses more natural talent than Aguilar. He ranked as the #1 player in the 2025 transfer cycle for legitimate reasons. However, those around Knoxville question how much of that talent actually translates to weekly on-field performance. Anyone who watches football can acknowledge, yes, one guy has significantly more upside, states the First Tennessee source. But for whatever reason, he hasn't reached that potential yet. Perhaps Aguilar does have a lower ceiling in Knoxville than Iamaleava would have possessed. But those around the program are thrilled with how he's integrated, built relationships, and led with charisma that's made him popular in a short time frame, and a more than capable quarterback for a team that had perhaps expected a rebuilding year, but now appears to have a legitimate chance at returning to the college football playoff. I believe the fans will give him some leeway, it seems to me, observes the third source. Not multiple losses kind of leeway. I think people genuinely support him. They want him to succeed. They'll be somewhat understanding. So here's the question that's going to spark debate. Did Tennessee actually win this trade, or are they just riding a hot streak? Will Aguilar's leadership and accuracy prove more valuable than Iamaleava's raw talent and ceiling? And most controversially, did Tennessee's program culture contribute to Iamaleava's departure, or was this simply about money and unrealistic expectations? What do you think? Did the Volunteers dodge a bullet or lose a future superstar? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let's see who's really right about this quarterback controversy.